In this video, I'll show you how to configure Firebase for Android. So the first thing I'm going to do is to tap on this Android icon over here. And in here, the first thing we need to do is to enter the Android package name. So to find out where this is, we can hover on the help button over here. And it says the package name is generally the application ID in your app level build.gradle file. So we can head back to our IDE and we're going to open up the Android folder. And then the app level folder, it's this one. So we're going to open this as well. And we're going to locate this build.gradle file. So let's open this up. And if we scroll down, we can find this section named default config with a to-do about specifying our unique application ID. So this is where we can find our application ID. So what we're going to do is to copy this value and then back on the browser, we're going to paste it in here. Now, this is the package name that I had chosen when I created the project. And if you have chosen a different one instead, make sure that the one you use is the one that comes from your build.gradle file over here. Okay, next we can choose an app nickname. So here I could type in time, tracker, flutter, course, and this is of course optional. And then we need to provide an SHA-1 signing certificate. Now, this is something that is also optional, but if we read on the footer down here, it says that this is required for Google Sign-In, and Google Sign-In is certainly an authentication method that we are going to support. So we actually want to provide this value as well. So here we want to hover on the help icon and then follow the link on this page to find instructions to generate our key. So if we scroll down a little bit, we can find that we need to run this command on the command line to generate the key that we need. And there are instructions for Mac and for Windows as well. So depending on which system you choose, then make sure that you copy the correct one. What I'm going to do now is to copy this command, and then I'm gonna head back to my IDE. And in here, I'm gonna open up the terminal. So I'm going to just copy, paste the value, and this is asking me for a key store password. Because this is a debug key, I don't actually care about it, so I'm gonna leave it empty. Okay, so I've now generated my key, and if I just open up the terminal a little bit more, I can reveal 2 certificate fingerprints. And so from here, I can select this long key over here, which is named SHA-1, and then I can copy it, and back on the browser, I can now head to my console and paste it down here. Okay, once this step is completed, I can tap on this button to register the application. And once this is complete, there is a new step that I need to follow. And so what I need to do in here is to download this config file. So I'm going to press on the button down here, which will save it onto my downloads. And then what I need to do is to take that file and drag it over to the Android app level directory. So to do that, I'm going to go back to my IDE, and then I'm going to open up the downloads. So over here, I have this Google Services JSON file. And if I head over to the Android folder over here, I can see the app level folder as well. So what I want to do is to take this file and I'm going to drag it inside the app folder. And I also get a confirmation screen over here. So I want to make sure the file goes into Android/app. If it doesn't go on this folder, then it won't work. Okay. Here, Android Studio tells me that this is a non-project file and whether I want to be able to continue editing this. So I'm just going to tap OK and go ahead. And then I can get back to the browser and continue to the next step. All right, so it looks like now we need to do a little bit of configuration in the project Gradle files. Okay, so just to avoid any confusion, I want to point out that the Android project contains 2 separate Gradle files. So the first one is the project level build.gradle file. And so over here, we can tap on this line to copy the contents. And then if we head back to Android Studio, we can locate the project level Gradle file, which is this one, okay? So what we had to do is to go into dependencies section, and in here we can just add a new line and paste the line that we just copied over. Then we can head back to our browser, and what we want to do now is to find the app level build.gradle file. And here the instructions tell us that we need to add 2 separate lines to this file. In practice, I've noticed that this line that says apply plugin is the only one that is actually required. So we are not going to add this implementation line. Instead, we are just going to copy this line that says apply plugin, and then back to Android Studio, we're going to locate the app build Gradle file. So this is different from the one that we were editing before. I know it's a bit confusing, but make sure we get the right one. So app and then build.gradle, and we're gonna scroll all the way to the bottom, and in here we're just going to paste this new line and save. Okay, so at this stage we could head back to our browser, and here what we can find is that it says press sync now on the bar that appears in the IDE. Now, if we head back to our Android Studio, we find that we don't really get a sync now bar. And the reason is that we are using Android Studio to run our Flutter project, not the Android project itself. So what we are going to do now is to click on this link that we see on the top right corner over here, and that will open a new window of Android Studio. And this will open the Android project that is contained inside our Flutter project. Okay, so we're going to click on here, and then the project is now opened with Android Studio. I can see that Android Studio is proposing to update the Android Gradle plugin. For now, I don't really care about this, and I want to go forward. So I can see that now this has started the syncing project for the Gradle file. And so once this is complete, then our Flutter configuration for Android is finished. Okay, so now that the Gradle dependencies have been updated, I can close this window and I'm back to the Flutter project in Android Studio. And at this stage, I can go back to the browser and I'm going to press next. Okay, so the instructions now tell us to run our app to verify the installation. But since our app is a Flutter application and not a native Android application, there is still a little bit of work that we need to do to configure Firebase. So for now, we're going to skip this step and we are back to the dashboard. Okay, so we have now completed the Android configuration for Firebase, and if you're running on the Android emulator, the next logical step would be to add Firebase authentication to our Flutter project and try to sign in anonymously to check that everything works correctly. But before we do that, I also want to go through the configuration steps for iOS. So in the next video, I'll show you how to configure Firebase for iOS, and after that we will complete our setup in the Flutter project and check that everything works.